Hey guys, hope you're having a great day. So today I'm going to talk about anxiety and constantly fearing cancer. So many of you that watch this channel deal with health anxiety, and we go through different stages where we fear different medical things and sicknesses, diseases, illnesses, things like that. And this is a big one, fearing cancer. It is, after all, one of the leading causes of death, in the world, right? So it's going to come across our mind at some point. The key is to not just constantly fret over it, to worry about it, to be paranoid about it, to the point to where it's really making you sick every single day and you're going into panic and you're having all these anxiety symptoms because of it. It can cripple you. It can make life miserable. It felt like a mental and a physical hell whenever I was going through this. Now, don't get me wrong, I feared all kinds of other things. Sudden death, other medical emergencies, strokes, all those things. I definitely went through those stages. I had horrible heart anxiety for the first 2 years of this health anxiety journey that I was on. But then I started to go into this, phase where it was mainly about cancer. And I would go from one phase to another, to another, to another. And that's the problem, guys, is you're going to get past whatever phase you're in now. You're eventually going to get enough reassurance. You're eventually going to get the testing that's going to confirm it, or the multiple opinions. But what happens when you feel something new, and I'm going to try to give you some insight and some tips on how this, how I was able to get out of that towards the end of this video. So you want to make sure that you watch this whole thing to get that value. And then make sure you hit the like button if you struggle with this, if you deal with this. And don't be shy. Leave a comment down below and let us know what aspect of this you're struggling with right now. Maybe somebody can help. Maybe I'll get to that comment as well. But yeah, after I got past my heart anxiety, guys, I thought I was good after that, and things were good for a little while. I can't remember, if it was a couple weeks or even a month or so. I mean, I still had some sensitivity, right? Some hypersensitivity. We still have that kind of in between some of these cycles, or once we finally accept that our symptoms are not just cancer or heart disease or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that your cortisol is immediately gone, or your sensitivity and awareness just completely corrects itself that day. Usually it lingers, so we can still feel things more so than the average person. And for many of us, we haven't really fixed a lot of our root causes, and everybody has different root causes, but a big one is the catastrophizing and spiraling. The other elephant in the room is that you're still deathly afraid of dying, disease, sickness, and health. So anytime that you feel something, you're going right to, what cancer could it be? Or, oh my God, is this it? Am I going to die now? That has to be fixed, and I'll tell you how I did that. But I'm just mentioning that because I thought I was good for a little bit, but I didn't work on those things that much. I was just happy to be past the heart anxiety thing because that was miserable. But then I felt something in my stomach one day, and I think it was just something that I ate. I don't have the greatest digestive. I have IBS, and I've had IBS most of my life. Not crippling or anything like that, but annoying. And I had a dull ache in my lower right stomach, and I was like, what's that about? And like I said, I didn't learn from my past. I was like, oh my God, I haven't had anything like this in a while. What if that's a tumor growing, or an obstruction, or a blockage? And guys, I kid you not, for like the next few months, I had a dull ache. It would be there. I'd notice it a couple minutes after waking up, and it'd be there until I would go to sleep. Obviously, it would kind of get a little bit, if it was on a scale of 1 to 10 pain for me, we all have different pain thresholds, but I'd say it was like a constant, like 2 or 3, you know what I mean? Just, hey, I'm here. And it wasn't even so much a symptom that was so horrible. It was just like, what could it be? The fear. And if you think about a lot of your symptoms, guys, that you deal with when it comes to anxiety, a lot of what makes it so miserable is the fear attached to the symptom. There were a lot of symptoms that I would grade on a 1 to 10 that would be below 5. A lot of them, most of them. But what made it horrible was like, what if this is a symptom of something that means that, of cancer or a heart attack that's going to happen? Or does this mean that I'm going to die from this in the future? What if it gets worse? What if? What is it? What if? The catastrophizing, the spiraling, that's what made the symptom miserable. But then I did something else that I didn't learn my lesson from the past. I jumped on Google and started researching, and then, of course, all these digestive cancers started coming up. So I feared digestive cancer heavily for those few months. I was the guy inspecting my stool after every bowel movement. I'm trying to see, and then one day I had a hemorrhoid. and there was a blood in the toilet after I used the restroom, and I freaked the hell out. I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then I remember the color of my stool was a little off too that day. So it was like both of those together. And instead of being rational and being like, look, I've had a hemorrhoid before, and it's bright red. It's not like it's upper digestive system bleeding or anything like that. And like, maybe it was something that I ate that made my color off or whatever. It's not going to you're not going to just get cancer just like that. You know what I mean? Like pump the brakes a little bit, but no, I was like, that ensures it, And again, I've told you guys in the past, like I was the person that in the beginning when I would feel something new and it was there for a week or two, I was scared to go to the doctor. I wanted to accept that it was anxiety, but I didn't get any reassurance. So there was always that question, you know what I mean? So something I wish I would have done with all my different phases, if this really bothered me and I was doing everything, trying to do my best to ignore it or to refocus on something else and everything like that, after about a week or so, maybe I should go get checked out instead of waiting, weeks or months before I'd go do that. So what happens with that, what I did with that, I put so much fear and focus into that symptom in my stomach, which again, I don't even think it was caused by anxiety, that it mimicked it. It became a habit of my mind and body to send energy into that one spot. So anytime I was conscious and not asleep, or, if I wasn't heavily distracted where it would dull down a little bit, it was there. You know what I mean? I basically made it stay there, So I feared that. And oddly enough, I finally made an appointment to get like an ultrasound or a CAT scan or something like that done. And I remember sitting on the couch watching something, and I was like, you know what, whatever, we'll figure it out at that appointment. And that was, I guess, my version of unintentionally really letting go of control. I was just, that's the way that I viewed it. I'll find out, I guess, we'll see what happens. A few hours later, I was like, oh my God, that pain's not there. And I remember running outside in the backyard around in circles like a little freaking kid, throwing my football up in the air and everything. Grown-ass man running around in circles. And I was just thanking God. I was like, oh my God, this anxiety thing is wild. Like, it's gone, because I just let go of control. And the pain, it melted. Now, that's a lucky situation. Most of our symptoms, even after we let go of control or make an appointment, aren't going to go away within an hour or two. Some of you might get lucky. I think with me, like, I went out there and I expressed so much gratitude to my subconscious and to the world, to the universe, to God, whatever, that it was good enough to where that symptom that had been such a habit that I'd programmed never came back. Never experienced a pain like that in that area till this day. So that's incredible, right? So I went through the digestive stuff. I feared throat cancer for a while. I remember I had like a weird scratchy, it wasn't like any other cold. It just felt different, right? And that's unfortunate, for a lot of these things. They feel like a little different than what it should be. So this has got to be something more serious. I remember just having a weird little ache in my throat that didn't feel like a typical cold. And I remember it was there, and I would feel it more if I like swallowed and stuff. I don't know, probably like, it might've just been from scratching my throat while eating something, maybe a chip or something like that. It's probably what it was, because I don't even remember being sick. And I convinced myself, and I almost damn near convinced my wife that I had throat cancer. You know what I mean? Like she was like tearing up. Like, I feel so bad for doing that to her. Not only was I thinking about my death and my funeral, and I'm going to miss out on my kid's life. And, this was right after we had a child, and I'm going through this. And that's what happens. All these things go through our mind, right? All these different things with these different phases. We start imagining what's our family going to do, or who's going to come to our funeral, what songs are going to be played at it. And, so anyways, I had that for, I can't remember, it might have been like a couple weeks to a month or so. But it stuck around. Some of that could have been the brain connection, me putting focus there. I wouldn't be surprised at one bit. But I do think I like literally scratched my throat with like a chip or something, looking back at it now. But I was like so terrified that I had throat cancer, had my wife in tears. And with each of these things, guys, when it comes down to the Googling stuff, I'm looking up prognosis. I'm looking up how long does somebody my age typically survive with this? What's the survival rate? What's the best treatment for this particular thing? What are some natural things to help? Dude, I'm telling you, I went all in. You're looking at Reddit, you're looking into Facebook group, you're doing all these things. Not healthy, not healthy. And it just reinforces that there's a problem, and, you know, the body's going to keep sending signals there. Geez, I remember when it came down to brain cancer and stuff like that, you know, I went through a long period where I feared like lymphoma. It's a long story, but to kind of shorten it, I remember feeling like a lymph node being a little bit off, or I was just feeling around and I felt it, and I was like, I've never really felt that, and I kept feeling and feeling and feeling. Something that happens with your lymph nodes, guys, this is why you also don't need to push and prod and poke and everything. Those things swell up, and they can swell up pretty easily, from what I've read and what I've heard from my own ENT. Like, don't do that. So then it became tender, and guess what I'm doing? I'm still pushing and poking, not realizing the damage that I'm doing. And then I started to get this stuffiness feeling in my ear. And it could have been something like maybe some drainage issues in my eustachian tube and stuff like that. I had tubes put in my ears whenever I was a baby. I had chronic ear infections as a small child. So could have been something like that. But once that got stuck in my head, guys, like, I had stuffiness in that right ear for a year and a half. This is actually my last bout with health anxiety. And don't get me wrong, I went through a lot of other, you know, cancer fears. I'm just giving you some major ones for the purpose of, you know, trying to make this video somewhat short. But that lasted a year and a half after I started to focus in on it. So one day I was sitting on the couch watching TV, and I remember this commercial came on for a lymphoma medication, some experimental, you know, those little commercials where it's like, all the side effects of this, you know, separation of thigh meat, nose fires, if your fingers start falling off, consult a doctor, that kind of crap. Anyways, one of those commercials came on, and they said the word lymphoma, and I hadn't really heard about that as common as it is. I was like, oh, lymphoma, lymph nodes. Oh my God, cancer in the lymph nodes. That's what that is. All the research happened, all the focus happened. So having fullness and tenderness here from poking and just sending signals, and then having stuffiness in this right ear, it felt like somebody shoved a cotton ball down in my ear. That lasted for about a year and a half until I finally let go of control. And I saw the ENT multiple times. They denied doing any CAT scan. She said, look, I'm looking in your ear. There's nothing in there. We did a hearing test, perfectly fine. We did a pressure test. She said it's like half a tick or one tick off, but you should not be feeling what you're feeling. And guys, that's what I'm talking about. The hypersensitivity, guys, is crazy. It is so wild that there was nothing that she could see, nothing with the testing, but it felt like that. And you can think about this, guys, like globus hystericus, for instance. I know a lot of you dealt with that. I've dealt with it on and off. The tightness in your throat feels like there's a damn golf ball in your throat, right? Or that, and then we think that there's like a tumor, and they'll go down there and look in there. There's nothing in there, right? It's just some tension and tightness in your throat that they can't measure on a test or see. But it feels like somebody's choking the hell out of you, or that you swallowed something, right? Or that there's something growing in there. It feels real. It is real. But again, that's our hypersensitivity. We feel things more so than other people. It's like we have a superpower, one that we don't want. So I went to the ENT multiple times for that. I just was convinced something had to be wrong. Bless that woman's heart. She was the best ENT around here in East Texas, and I still went back questioning things. And as far as like getting opinions, guys, go back. I can't tell you when to stop going to the doctor. I can't do that. You know what I mean? All I can say is that if you want to eventually get away from this, you got to try to figure out a point where you want to let go. I can't tell you when to do that. Hell, it took me 5 years to finally let go of these things. You know, but that is part of it, letting go of control. And there were some other cancers and stuff that I would like, fears that I thought of. And then also with the lymphoma thing, I also thought that I might have had brain cancer, and brain cancer runs in my family. There's actually a decent chance that I get it. The men in my family on my dad's side, they all get it. So I don't know. Fingers crossed, but I'm not going to worry about it until that day comes. That's one thing that I've learned. And I guess that's how I want to wrap this video up and give you some tips, guys. It's not easy to get past health anxiety. It's one of the hardest aspects, or hardest anxiety disorders. It just, everything's combined. Generalized anxiety disorder. A lot of you have panic disorder, and you have health anxiety. We're not just annoyed and frustrated by the symptoms. We're afraid that the symptoms are actually killing us. And that makes this whole thing difficult. You know, that's what makes it difficult. Ultimately, in the end, it's letting go of control. And like I said earlier in the video, getting out of a phase isn't necessarily the problem. It's like, what's going to happen whenever I feel something new the next time? And this was a big kind of like I don't want to say perception change, but thought process that I went through. I became more afraid of not living than dying, you know, and with the cancer thing, I had an overall problem just fearing death and thinking about death all the time. You know, I like to word it, I'm more afraid of not living than dying, right? I'm more afraid of the 5 years that have gone by and nothing has happened and all the memories I've lost or missed out on, the things that I'm passionate about, I'm not doing. And even whenever we're at vacation, like I remember being on vacation whenever I was fearing the lymphoma thing in San Antonio with my wife at the time. The whole time, it's like, I'm not even really there. I'm just like, I'm blowing a few $1,000s here at San Antonio on all these things. I'm not even really super enjoying it. I'm just thinking about when I'm going to die of cancer. You know what I mean? And guys, with anything, vacations, weddings, trips, just spending time with your family. It's like, we're here watching a movie, but I'm not really here. You know what I mean? I'm thinking about my funeral or whatever cancer I'm fearing at the time. So I became more afraid of that and realizing that 5 years of my life went by, you know, because of it. Now, I'm not going to say that I didn't learn good lessons and that anxiety, you know, wasn't a sign that I needed to grow in a lot of aspects. It was. And I needed to fix a lot of things so I could live my life happily, you know, as I am now. Also, I get to help you guys. I get to talk to you guys in these videos and I get to coach people and things like that. So that's great. So a lot of good things did come out of it. But honestly, like it sucks to have missed out, you know, like 21 to 26 years old, you know, a lot of my youth, just in the early part of my marriage when things were supposed to be fun and, you know, my firstborn son and all that, like there was a lot of great things, my wedding, and it's just like, I was just displaced, you know, for a lot of that. It wasn't all bad, but it's just like, it's like a cloud constantly hanging over your head. So I became more afraid of that. And this is another way of viewing it or wording that phrase. I was more afraid of being afraid of the inevitable, right? Than dying, right? Than the inevitable. I was more afraid of being afraid of the inevitable than the inevitable itself. If it's going to happen, I know some people don't like to hear it like this, but I'm just saying this is something that helped me. I'm going to die one day. There is a chance it could be cancer, or decent chance. Like, I'm more afraid of missing out like I did yesterday. Yesterday, all day went by and I just sat around thinking about cancer like a lot of you have that are watching this video or whatever. You can apply this to other stuff, heart disease and everything, now that we're done talking about that. Like any disease, it didn't happen yesterday. Instead, you just missed out on a day of your life, on an already short life. I became more afraid of that. I became more afraid of missing out on memories or you know, moments with my family, vacations, things. I'm not going to be able to get that time back. So that really helped me let go of control. Something else that I started to embrace was, if something's going to happen, I'm eventually going to find out and it's going to get serious and I'm just going to get help and I'm going to get treatment. Also, a lot of cancers that I feared are very treatable and were very treatable for my age at the time. I just didn't think of it like that. You know, I just thought it was going to be that, you know, that 5% that was going to die, you know, and that's, again, that goes back to our catastrophizing issues. But I had to let go of control, become more afraid of not living than dying, be more afraid of being afraid of the inevitable than the inevitable itself, because it's going to happen to all of us. But we can get a lot out of this life, if we take it day by day by day. Just think about yesterday. If you're watching this video, you're alive. You were alive yesterday, right? You didn't die, even if you were thinking about it all day or thought you were going to die or whatever. And even if it isn't about like, I didn't think I was going to die today, I just thought I was going to die. You spent the whole day worrying about the future, right? Your future death and all that stuff. You just missed out on a perfect day. Now think about the past month. Think about the past year. Think about the past 5 years. And you get up to the numbers where it's years, you'll be able to embrace this a little bit better, because you're going to be like, my God, I've missed out on so many things. And I do not want to keep doing this. I do not want to keep doing this. So hopefully that helps. There's a lot of other things, like stop Googling your stuff. Have a rule system when you go into a new phase. Don't Google, don't push, don't poke, don't prod, don't play doctor. Don't give it the negative, the fearful responses. It's okay to be afraid and be annoyed by symptoms, but we don't want our subconscious to get that from us. We need to give a safety context, like look at everything that we thought we've had in the past, it never happens, or We got great testing. We got, you know, told by doctor that things are going to be okay. We're good. We're fine. And also, like, you have a rule system when it comes down to other things. Like, am I actually physically sick? Am I vomiting? You know, is there blood? Is there all those things? I can't make the rule system for you, but I have a rule system for whenever a new symptom comes up or whenever you feel something, while at the same time realizing you're probably still in a hypersensitive state and you have to work under catastrophizing. So that, right? That will go a long way as well. But a big part of letting, you know, of getting past anxiety and health anxiety is letting go of control and being more afraid of what it's taking from you, right, than the inevitable. That's a big thing. Thanks. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. Long-winded. It wasn't short at all. Guys, if you want more help with your anxiety recovery process, there's a lot of things that go into it. Check out my course, ELITE ANXIETY BOOTCAMP, down below in the description and the first pinned comment. I'm going to read you a review real quick. I have had anxiety and panic disorder my whole life, but was not diagnosed until 23 years old. Taking my vitals, calling someone, and having EMTs check me out was a regular thing. I came across the Trey Jones TikTok page, and after some time, I purchased the boot camp. Every day I woke up and got right on what I was to do that day. This boot camp changed everything. I don't check my vitals. I don't call someone for reassurance, and I can now work. This boot camp changes my life, and now I am free from the prison I have lived in for so many years. So be a part of that, guys. It's helping a lot of people. I want you to be a part of that as well. My coaching information is down below. Please like this video if you got value. Again, leave me a comment. Subscribe if you're new. And I'll talk to you next time, guys. Keep fighting.